On my wedding day, my own son and daughter-in-law humiliated my new husband in front of nearly 400 guests. They sneered that he wasn't a real stepfather. They called him worthless. And while I stood there, stunned and trembling, her entire family burst into hysterical laughter, clapping and cheering like it was some kind of comedy show. I felt the ground vanish beneath me. But I rose anyway, shaking, burning with rage, and ordered every last one of them out of the reception hall. That was when my husband turned to me with a calm so deep it silenced even the noise in my head, and said something that changed my entire life. "Honey, I'm a billionaire, but before you panic, let me explain how this moment came to be, because what happened next, none of them will ever forget." Welcome to my channel. I post new life stories here every day, so please hit subscribe and like the video. Now, let's go back to the beginning, because this story starts 3 hours earlier. My name is Eleanor, or Ellie to everyone who knows me. At 61 years old, I stood in the most breathtaking venue I had ever walked into. 400 guests filled rows of ivory velvet seats. The tables shimmered under chandeliers, draped in cream silk cloths, with towering white and gold floral arrangements that looked like they belonged in a royal palace. I had spent nearly all my savings on this single night. I wanted it to be perfect. After 15 years of widowhood, 15 years of aching loneliness and crying behind closed doors, I had finally found love again, true love. Elias, my Eli, stood beside me at the altar in a simple yet flawless gray suit. His silver hair was neatly brushed back, his hands rough from years of honest labor. He wasn't wealthy. He didn't own fancy cars or a sprawling house. He lived modestly, quietly. But when he looked at me, I felt like the most precious woman alive, and that was more valuable than anything money could buy. Then it began. The first loud, sharp, cruel laugh. It came from the third row, right where my son Darius sat beside his wife Tasha. Darius, my 38-year-old boy, dressed head to toe in a designer suit worth thousands, a gold Rolex flashing every time he moved his wrist. He had worshipped money his entire life. And Tasha, she was worse. 35, wrapped in a scarlet dress 2 sizes too small, lacquered black nails, and an ego bigger than the ballroom. Since the day she married my son, she treated me like I was beneath her. Her family, the so-called Jenkins elites, weren't any better. People who pretended to be high society while everyone knew their wealth came from shady backdoor dealings. "Look at this," Tasha whispered loudly to her mother. "The old woman is marrying a charity case." Her mother, Brenda, drowning in fake gold jewelry, laughed behind her hand. "Poor Ellie. At her age, she'll take whatever she can get." Heat rushed to my face. Elias squeezed my hand gently. "Stay strong." But they didn't stop. They never do. While the officiant spoke about love, respect, and union, their whispers crawled through the air like poison. "Did you see his shoes? They look like he found them secondhand. That suit, my gardener dresses better." Chuckles spread down the row like a wave of spite. My heart ached, cracked, but Elias stood tall, calm, dignified, as if cruelty couldn't touch him. His strength kept me standing. Then came the vows. Elias's voice was warm, steady, overflowing with sincerity. "Ellie, from the moment we met, I knew I wanted the rest of my life with you. I can't offer wealth, but I offer loyalty, honesty, and every heartbeat I have left." A few guests sighed softly, moved. My eyes filled with tears. And then Darius burst out laughing, loud, mocking, cruel. "This is pathetic," he yelled, staggering slightly from alcohol. He stood up and raised his champagne glass like he was making a toast. "Seriously, Mom? This is who you picked? This sad, broke old man?" The room froze. 400 people turned in horrified silence. "Darius, stop," I whispered, my voice breaking. He ignored me. "You worked your whole life for your money. Dad left you a good inheritance, and you throw it all away on a nobody? He probably just wants your bank account." Tasha stood up, a smug smile slicing across her face. "Darius is right. That's not a stepfather. That's street trash." Her entire family erupted in laughter. They pointed. They recorded videos. They treated my wedding like a circus act. And then I snapped. Not sadness, not embarrassment, fury, a rage so deep it practically lit the room on fire. I pulled my hand from Eli's and walked straight toward my son. "You know what, Darius?" My voice didn't even sound like mine. It was stronger, steadier, fuller than anything I'd used in years. "You're right. Someone does need to tell the truth tonight." The room went dead silent. 400 guests froze, forks hovering mid-air, breaths suspended, waiting to witness what humiliated, ridiculed Ellie would do next. Darius stood there with that same arrogant little smirk he wore as a child whenever he thought he'd outsmarted everyone. And Tasha, she was glued to his side, arms crossed, wearing that superior expression she had polished to perfection. Her entire family, those Jenkins jackals, continued snickering behind them, enjoying the show like a pack of hyenas who had finally caught the scent of blood. "The truth," I repeated slowly, letting each word settle like stones, "is that I spent 35 years married to your father. 35 years cleaning other people's houses, scrubbing floors, and working double shifts so you, Darius, could attend the best schools, wear the best clothes, and have every opportunity I never had." A flicker of guilt crossed his eyes for the briefest second, then vanished as quickly as it appeared. He covered the moment with another lazy sip of champagne. "Your father was a good, hard-working man, and when he died 15 years ago, I was left alone, completely alone." "Mom, don't do this," Darius muttered. "Don't make a scene." "A scene?" I let out a cold, humorless laugh. "A scene is spending every Christmas by myself because you and Tasha were too busy with her family. A scene is blowing out the candles on my 61st, 60th, and 59th birthdays alone because my own son didn't even bother to call." Soft murmurs rippled through the crowd. People were turning toward Darius with raised brows and shaking heads. But of course, Tasha couldn't keep quiet. "Oh, please," she snapped, stepping forward. Her heels clacked sharply across the marble floor. "You're always playing the victim, Ellie. Always whining, always wanting attention." She tossed her hair like she was flicking away something dirty. "Darius has his own life. He isn't here to babysit you." "Babysit me," I whispered, feeling that final thread inside me stretch to its limit. I never asked to be babysat. I only wanted a little love, a little respect, a tiny fraction of the affection I poured into my son his entire life. Eli stood at the altar watching everything, calm, steady, not interfering, but giving me the space to finally free myself from years of quiet suffering. "And now," I said deeply, "after all these years, I finally find someone who makes me feel alive again, someone who treats me with kindness, someone who values me, and you come here to destroy it." "Destroy it?" Darius scoffed. "I'm protecting you. That man is a leech, a loser. Look at him. He dresses like he belongs under a bridge, lives in some run-down apartment. He probably has $20 to his name. You want me to celebrate that?" Tasha's family erupted in applause, like it was a comedy show. "Exactly," shouted Tasha's father, Larry, his cigar stink filling the air. "That old beggar wants your mother's money. It's obvious. You should be grateful your son cares."
Brenda shook her jangling bracelets dramatically. "He's just trying to protect your assets, dear." "My assets?" I spat the word out. "Since when has my son cared about my assets? Since when has he cared about anything besides himself?" "That's not fair," Darius snapped, face flushing red. "Not fair is when I needed $1,000 for surgery 3 years ago, and you claimed you were broke and bought that Rolex 2 weeks later. Not fair is when I begged you for $5,000 to fix my roof, and you made me sign papers like I was some stranger off the street." The audience murmured again, louder this time, judgmental eyes turning toward my son, my once pride, now my deepest disappointment. My best friend Vivian had tears streaming down her cheeks, but Tasha, of course, she wasn't finished. "You know what's really happening here, Ellie?" she said, strutting toward me like she owned the room. "You're old, you're lonely, you're desperate. And this sad little wedding proves it. You grabbed the first man who was willing to look at you, and it's honestly embarrassing. My whole family agrees." They erupted in laughter. Uncles, cousins, random hangers-on, some lifting their phones to record the spectacle. I could almost see the captions they'd post online. "Grandma marries a penniless nobody. Most pathetic wedding in the city." But something inside me hardened, snapped, transformed. I turned and walked back to Eli. He stood there with a peace in his eyes that made the entire world fade away. I took his hand. "Are you sure? My family is a disaster, and they clearly don't deserve to witness this." He smiled, a small, mysterious smile that held something powerful behind it. "Ellie, I have never been more certain of anything. And yes, you're right, there are people here who do not deserve to see this moment." I faced the crowd again. Then I said it. "Darius, you, Tasha, and your entire family, out. Leave my wedding." Gasps spread across the room. Darius looked like someone had slapped him across the face. "What? Mom, you can't be serious." "I've never been more serious. Get out." Tasha threw her head back and cackled. "You're throwing out your family, really?" "You are not family," I said coldly. "You are leeches, and you have 5 minutes to get out before I call security." Darius's face twisted from shock to outrage. "You're kicking out your only son?" "Yes," I answered without hesitation. "You, your wife, and the vipers you brought with you." Tasha stormed toward me, pointing that long claw-like nail inches from my face. "You can't do this, you senile old woman." "I can do whatever I want," I replied calmly. "I paid for this wedding. I paid for this venue. I paid for the food and the music and every second of this night, and I won't let any of you poison it further." Larry lumbered forward, belly straining against his belt. "You think you can talk to us like that? My family has influence. We can destroy you." "Go ahead," I said, meeting his eyes. "You already destroyed this day. What more could you possibly take from me?" Brenda shook her bracelets so violently they clattered like cheap wind chimes. "This is outrageous. We came here to support you and this ridiculous marriage." "Support?" I barked a bitter laugh. "You call mocking my husband, calling him trash, humiliating him in front of 400 people support?" I straightened my shoulders. "Get out."
That's pure cruelty. That voice came from one of Tasha's cousins, a young man drowning in hair gel and cheap cologne. He leaned back in his chair, smirking loudly, and shouted, "Your husband is garbage, Ellie. Everyone can see it. Just look at him. He looks like some homeless man you dragged in off the sidewalk." Roars of laughter burst from their corner. They clapped, whistled, slapped the table like it was the funniest thing they had ever witnessed. They were enjoying themselves, enjoying crushing me, enjoying turning my wedding day into a public execution. For the first time since the chaos began, Eli spoke. His voice was calm, not weak, not timid, but calm like a man who had nothing to prove. "Young man," he said evenly, "you don't know me. You know nothing about my life, yet you feel comfortable insulting me. That says far more about you than it does about me." The cousin's grin died instantly, as if Eli's voice had knocked the air out of him. But Darius pushed forward, tripling down on his anger. His steps were unsteady, his breath hot with alcohol, his face red like he was ready to explode. "Mom, if you throw us out, if you dare do this, you'll never see me again. You'll never see the kids again. I swear, you'll lose us forever." The words punched me straight in the chest. Miles, just 6, Chloe, barely 4, my grandchildren, my angels. The idea of never seeing their little faces again felt like suffocating. But then I turned. I looked at Eli, this man whose kindness, gentleness, and respect had healed parts of me I didn't even know were broken. In 6 months, he gave me more love than my own son had given in 15 years. And in that moment, I understood, if I didn't choose myself today, I never would. "If that's your choice, Darius," I said softly, my voice shaking but steady, "then so be it. I won't be manipulated anymore. I won't be your emergency wallet while you toss me aside when I'm inconvenient." "You're unbelievable," Tasha screamed. "A selfish old woman choosing some stranger over her own family?" "He's not a stranger," I replied, surprisingly calm. "He's the man I love, and if you can't respect that, you don't get a place in my life." The hatred on Darius's face was chilling. For a moment, he looked like he wanted to spit venom. "You'll regret this," he growled, "when that old man drains your accounts dry, when he leaves you broke in the street. Don't you dare come crawling to me." "I won't," I said, tears finally slipping down my cheeks. "I promise you that." The atmosphere thickened. You could feel the tension pulling the air tight. Guests stared, horrified, frozen, helpless. Finally, my best friend, Vivian Lewis, stood, her white hair glowing under the chandelier, her posture straight as steel. "Darius, Tasha, if you have 1 ounce of decency, leave, now. What you're doing is cruel. It's unforgivable." "Mind your own business, you nosy old hag," Tasha snapped. "It becomes my business when I watch my best friend being emotionally beaten by her own family. And honestly, after seeing your behavior, I fully understand why she chose Elias. He has more grace in a single fingertip than your entire clan combined." That sent the Jenkins family into an unhinged frenzy. They jumped up screaming, pointing, hurling every insult they could think of. The ballroom erupted into chaos, shouting, stomping, people rising to intervene, others backing away. 30 minutes earlier, this room was filled with elegance, music, and joy. Now it resembled a war zone. "Enough!" I yelled, my voice cracking like thunder and silencing the entire hall. "If you don't walk out right now, I will call security." I gestured toward the venue manager who had been watching from the entrance, tall, composed, already signaling to 2 guards behind him. They started walking toward us. "We don't need to be kicked out," Darius said with dripping contempt. "We're leaving. This pathetic event is beneath us." He pointed a shaking finger at me. "And you make me sick. Hope you enjoy being alone, because you won't have a family after this." "Real family doesn't treat you this way," I replied, feeling Eli's hand slip into mine, grounding me, giving me strength I desperately needed. Tasha snatched up her designer handbag, the same one I helped her buy last year when she begged me for $3,000 she never paid back. "Let's go. This whole wedding is a joke." One by one, their entire group, nearly 20 people, stood up, scraping chairs loudly, stomping their feet, knocking things over on purpose. They wanted to leave destruction in their wake. Napkins thrown, glasses tipped, chairs shoved. "This isn't over," Tasha's father barked as he headed towards the exit. "People in this city will hear about this. Everyone will know exactly who you are." "Let them," I said quietly. "I'm done caring." As the parade of toxic chaos stumbled out, the rest of the guests sat frozen, silent, as if collectively holding their breath. Finally, only one person remained at the doorway, Darius. He turned back, his expression cold, empty, a stranger's face. "Goodbye, Mom," he said. "Hope that worthless old man is worth losing your only son." He walked out, the doors shut behind him with a final, echoing slam, one that felt like it traveled straight into my chest, and I stood there, trembling, surrounded by silence, having just thrown my own son out of my wedding.
I stood there, trembling, realizing I might have just shattered my relationship with my son forever. The thought hit me like a blow. I had probably lost the chance to see my grandchildren again, the only innocent beings in this entire mess. Tears poured down my cheeks without restraint. My makeup was ruined, my champagne gowns stained with grief. My perfect day had transformed into a catastrophe. Then suddenly, Eli's arms closed around me. He held me with such quiet strength, such tenderness, that for one small moment the world stopped breaking. "I'm so sorry," I whispered into his chest, my voice cracking. "I destroyed everything, our wedding, everything." "You didn't destroy a thing," he murmured, gently stroking my hair. "You stood up for what was right. That took courage. I'm proud of you." We stayed there, locked in an embrace at the center of the chaos. Slowly, cautiously, applause began to ripple across the room. Vivian first, then others, until the entire hall was clapping, not in celebration, but in solidarity, in support. Eli pulled back slightly and held my hands tightly. His eyes were intense, almost glowing with something serious. "Ellie, there's something I need to tell you." My stomach dropped. "What is it?" I asked, wiping my wet face. He breathed deeply, like a man about to reveal something enormous. "I'm a billionaire." I blinked. The words registered, but my brain rejected them. "What?" "I'm a billionaire," he repeated gently. "I own more than $2 billion in assets, properties across continents, businesses, investments, all of it." My knees buckled. Vivian rushed to my side, gripping my arm. "Ellie, breathe, breathe." But I couldn't. My thoughts were spinning. My son's insults, the humiliation, throwing my family out of my own wedding, and now this? "I don't understand," I whispered. "You live in a tiny apartment. You drive an old car, your clothes." "It was all intentional," Eli said softly. "After my first wife died 8 years ago, I watched people swarm me only because of my wealth. I wanted to live simply. I wanted to find someone who loved me, not my money." The room had fallen silent. Every guest was frozen, drinking in his words like the climax of a dramatic series. "All those clothes?" I whispered. "The old car? Your little apartment?" He nodded. "Exactly. And then I met you. Someone genuine, kind, warm, someone who welcomed me without asking for anything." Tears blurred my vision again, but these were different, warm, overwhelming, impossible to categorize. "Why tell me all this now?" I managed to say. Eli glanced toward the doors where Darius and Tasha had stormed out minutes earlier. "Because I wanted you to see who they truly are when they believed I had nothing. I needed you to make your own judgment before knowing who I really am." "Oh my God," I pressed my hands to my face. "My son? He just insulted, humiliated a billionaire?" "Your son insulted the man you love," Eli corrected gently. "The money doesn't change that." He was right, painfully right, but my mind was still reeling. "But how?" I whispered. "Where did all the money come from?" A quiet pride flickered in his eyes. "I started from nothing, worked construction for 20 years, saved obsessively, invested in abandoned buildings and areas no one believed in, built everything one decision at a time." His voice wavered. "But when my wife Letitia died of cancer, all the money meant nothing. I couldn't save her." I felt his pain. I felt the echo of my own losses in his voice. After she passed, he continued, people around me changed. Friends turned into leeches. Women pursued me for my bank accounts. My in-laws even tried to sue for her inheritance. I realized my wealth had corrupted every connection, so I stepped out of the spotlight, kept my businesses, but hid my fortune. Vivian was standing there, jaw practically on the floor. And then I met you, Eli said, cupping my hands, and you brought me back to life. You offered kindness without expecting anything. You fed me with love, not greed. You loved me simply because you loved me. I don't know what to say, I whispered, my world tilting in every direction. You don't need to say anything yet, he soothed. I know it's overwhelming, but you deserve the truth. You deserve to know that defending us, defending our love, was the right choice. Suddenly, all the subtle signs he had never explained clicked together. The way he spoke with authority about business, the little slips he made about travel, his manners, his education, it all fit now. Did anyone else know? I asked. My lawyer, Marcus King, Eli said. He's here today in row 12. He's managed my finances for 8 years. I followed his glance and saw a sharply dressed man giving me a respectful nod. How had I overlooked him? And what happens now? I asked, overwhelmed. What does this mean for us? Eli smiled at me with that soft, steady love I had fallen for. It means we start our marriage with no secrets between us. It means I can give you safety, comfort, everything you deserve, but more than anything, he squeezed my hands tighter. It means I found a woman who loves me without knowing I had anything to offer but my heart. My tears flowed freely again, unstoppable, raw, overwhelming. Vivian hugged me tightly. Girl, didn't I always tell you this man was special? Guests approached us slowly, offering support. I barely heard them. My mind was still spinning. Eli leaned closer, lowering his voice. There's one more thing, Ellie. The $5,000 your son lent you, with interest, I paid it off months ago, quietly. I didn't want you burdened by it. Marcus handled it anonymously. What? I gasped. I didn't want you suffering under that weight, he said. You just never knew it was me. I wanted to see if Darius would come clean, Eli explained softly. If he would tell you the debt was already paid, or if he'd return the money himself. But he didn't, did he? I shook my head slowly. A cold wave of betrayal washed over me all over again. No, I whispered. He never said a thing. Actually, 2 weeks ago he called me, asking when I planned to repay him. Eli's shoulders sank with a quiet, tired sigh. I suspected as much. That's why I needed you to see his true nature before we said our vows. You deserved to know exactly who you were trusting. And suddenly, everything snapped into place. The timing, the reveal, the entire unfolding disaster. It wasn't a test for me, it was a truth mirror for them, and they had failed in the most spectacular fashion. My son, I choked out. My own son was deceiving me. I'm sorry, darling, Eli murmured, pulling me gently into his chest. I know how much this hurts. I know it's crushing, but better you saw it now than carry that wound quietly into our marriage. His words made sense, they were rational, but my heart was breaking anyway. My child, the boy I carried, raised, defended, sacrificed for, had been stealing from me, lying, using me, and today he had shown everyone exactly who he was. What do we do now? I whispered, feeling wrung out, empty. Eli lifted my chin, his eyes steady and unwavering. Now, he said, we continue our wedding. We get married surrounded by the people who truly love us, and then we begin our new life together, without lies, without manipulation, without anyone dimming your joy. The minister, who had stood quietly through the chaos, stepped forward with deep sympathy in his eyes. He was an older man, seasoned and calm, but even he looked shaken by the events that had unfolded. Would you like to proceed with the ceremony? He asked kindly. I looked around. At Eli, at the guests who had witnessed my humiliation and my strength, at Vivian smiling at me through her tears, and suddenly I knew exactly what I wanted. "Yes," I said clearly, "yes, we want to continue." The ceremony resumed, but now the air felt different, warmer, gentler, filled with support instead of judgment. When Eli slid the ring onto my finger, it felt like stepping into a brand new chapter of my life. And when the minister finally pronounced us husband and wife, the room erupted in applause that came straight from people's hearts. I kissed Eli, my husband, and for the first time that day, the pain faded into the background. Even if only for a moment, I felt whole. The reception afterwards was beautiful in a way I hadn't expected. Without Darius, Tasha, and her family poisoning the atmosphere, the room felt lighter. People danced, celebrated, and genuinely enjoyed themselves. Friends came up to me one after another, praising my courage. A few even confessed they'd always had concerns about Darius's behavior, but never dared voice them. During dinner, Eli stood up and raised his hand for silence. Instantly, the room quieted. "I want to thank everyone who stayed today," he began, his voice calm but commanding. "You witnessed something incredibly painful, but also meaningful. You saw a brave woman stand up for her dignity and claim her right to happiness. I am deeply honored to be her husband." Applause rippled through the room. And I also want to be completely transparent. Some of you heard my confession earlier, and I know there are many questions. So let me explain. I am the founder and owner of Vance Development Group, VDG. A collective gasp surged through the hall. VDG, the giant behind some of the most iconic skyscrapers, luxury hotels, and commercial landmarks in the entire region. I had once cleaned the floors of one of those buildings when I worked nights as a janitor. The reason I kept that part of my life private is simple. After losing my first wife, I realized wealth draws the wrong kinds of people. I wanted love, true love, not attention or opportunism, and I found exactly that with Ellie. He extended his hand toward me and pulled me gently to stand beside him. This woman loved me when she believed I was a retired laborer with nothing but a small pension. She gave me her heart without expecting a single thing in return. That is something money can never buy. And so here, in front of all of you, I make her a promise. I will spend the rest of my life protecting her, cherishing her, and giving her every bit of happiness she deserves. The room exploded in thunderous applause, louder than before, louder than anything I'd ever heard at a wedding.
Vivian was crying openly now, not caring who saw. A few of my other friends clung to each other, moved beyond words. It felt as though the entire room was sharing my joy, as if it belonged to all of them, too. Yet, beneath that celebration, one image kept stabbing at my mind. Darius's face as he stormed out, the fury, the disgust, his absolute confidence that I was the one ruining everything. And I couldn't help wondering, what was he thinking now? Had the rumors already reached him? The truth about who Eli really was? Did he know he had mocked, insulted, and humiliated not just any man, but a billionaire? As if reading my mind, Eli leaned in during our first dance and whispered, "I know you're thinking about him. It's natural. He's your son." "I can't stop," I admitted, my throat tightening. "No matter what he's done, he's still my child, and it hurts. It hurts so deeply." "I know it does," he murmured, "but being your son doesn't entitle him to mistreat you. Family doesn't mean accepting abuse, manipulation, or disrespect." He was right. Of course he was. But a mother's heart is never simple. You can recognize your child's cruelty and still ache for them. You can understand their toxicity and still love them. It's a contradiction mothers carry quietly their entire lives. The celebration lasted late into the night. We danced, ate cake, toasted with champagne that cost more than my monthly salary when I used to clean houses. Everything felt surreal, unreal. Just that morning, I had woken up as Ellie, a 61-year-old widow who'd spent decades scraping by. And now, I was going to sleep as Ellie Vance, the wife of a billionaire. When we finally slipped away to the bridal suite Eli had reserved at the city's grandest hotel, the magnitude of everything hit me all at once. The suite was larger than my entire apartment, floor-to-ceiling windows glowing with city lights, a bed you could swim in, and a marble bathtub bigger than my old kitchen. "Are you okay?" Eli asked gently, shrugging off his jacket. I sat on the edge of the enormous bed, still in my champagne-colored gown. Honestly, I'm not sure. I feel like I'm trapped between a dream and a nightmare, and I can't tell which part is which. Eli sat beside me and laced his fingers through mine. I know it's overwhelming. Everything flipped upside down in a single day. But listen to me, Ellie. None of this changes who I am. I'm still the same man you met 6 months ago, the same man who fell for your laugh, your warmth, your strength. Money doesn't define me. "But it changes everything," I whispered, feeling the weight of it crush me. "It changes all of it." "It only changes what we allow it to," he said softly. "If you want to keep living simply, we can. If you want comfort, I can give you that too. The choice is ours, no one else's." I looked into his eyes, the same gentle, steady eyes I had fallen in love with before I knew anything about his wealth. And suddenly, I realized he was right. The money hadn't changed him. He was still Eli, my Eli. "I need to ask you something," I said after a long silence. "Why me? Out of all the women you could have chosen, why choose a 61-year-old widow with a complicated past and an even more complicated son?" Eli's smile was soft, almost nostalgic. "Do you remember the day we met?" I nodded. "At the farmer's market. I'd been comparing prices, trying to stretch every dollar. Our carts collided. You apologized at least 5 times," he chuckled, "and then when you noticed one of my tomatoes roll under a shelf, you got down on that knee that always bothers you just to pick it up for me." I blinked. I had forgotten that completely. To me, it had been nothing, a small, forgettable gesture. But to me, he continued, it was everything. And every Thursday morning afterward, when we kept running into each other at the market, I saw more of who you were. Your patience, your generosity, the way you treated strangers with respect. I saw your heart, Ellie, and I fell in love with it. My eyes blurred again. It seemed tears had become my new language. "So yes," he said, wiping my cheeks with his thumbs, "because you are genuine, you are kind, you made me feel alive again." We kissed, a deep, tender kiss, full of promises about a shared future, no matter what storms were coming. But even wrapped in Eli's arms in that luxurious hotel suite, part of my mind drifted back to Darius, how he would react when he learned the full truth, whether he'd ever regret what he'd done, whether I even wanted to attempt repairing our relationship after everything. The next morning, I woke up curled in sheets softer than anything I'd ever touched. For one fragile moment, I wondered if the entire wedding, the humiliation, the miracle, the revelation, had only been a dream. But then I turned my head. There was Eli, breathing softly beside me, and reality settled in. Everything had happened. My life had transformed in 24 hours. I slipped out of bed gently, walked to the towering windows, and stared at the golden sunrise spilling across the city. From this height, the world looked tiny, and I wondered if this was how Eli had always seen life, distant, manageable, small. "Good morning, my love," his voice murmured behind me. I turned to see him sitting up, hair tousled, smiling softly. "Good morning," I whispered back, torn between happiness and a knot of lingering anxiety. "Couldn't sleep," he said. "That's understandable. Yesterday was a lot. What's on your mind?" "Everything," I confessed. "Darius, what happened, what's waiting for us next." Eli kissed the top of my head. "I have something to show you," he said quietly. Something in his tone told me this wasn't just a casual detour. "Something I want to show you," he said softly. "Something that will help you understand who I really am and what our life together truly means now." 30 minutes later, I was sitting inside a private helicopter, the blades thundering above us. A helicopter! If someone had told me yesterday morning that I would fly in one, I would have laughed in their face. But there I was, buckled into a leather seat, while Eli, calm and confident, adjusted the controls. "I learned to fly about 20 years ago," he explained when he noticed how wide my eyes were. "Sometimes it's convenient for work, and sometimes it's just freedom." We lifted off, the city shrinking beneath us. Skyscrapers glittered, highways wound like silver ribbons, and every familiar street suddenly looked like part of another world. Eli began pointing at different buildings below. "See that hotel? The Grand Plaza." He gestured toward a massive structure with a rooftop garden. "I built it 15 years ago, 400 rooms. It's the most profitable in the region." He pointed toward another direction. "That shopping center, Sun Promenade, that's mine too. So are those 3 residential towers and the manufacturing complex by the port." Each time he pointed, it felt like my breath caught. I had scrubbed floors in some of those places. I had washed windows, cleaned restrooms, mopped lobbies, never imagining the man whose hands now held mine owned half the skyline. Then Eli pointed to a building with a Red Cross symbol on top. "And that hospital? I funded the entire construction 5 years ago." "For what?" I asked, stunned. His expression softened. "Letitia, my first wife. Cancer took her from me. I realized how many people don't even get a fighting chance, so I built a facility that provides free oncology treatment for anyone who needs it." Free. A word that hit me like a blow to the chest. "No one should die," he added quietly, "just because they can't afford to live." And in that moment, the pieces shifted. I began to understand Eli not as a billionaire, but as a man who carried grief, compassion, and responsibility in equal measure. We landed on the rooftop of a towering glass building, Vance Development Group headquarters. Inside, the environment surprised me. It wasn't cold or intimidating. It was bright, open, filled with warm greetings and genuine smiles. No one bowed in fear. They respected him. "I want you to meet someone," Eli said, guiding me to a large corner office. Inside stood Marcus King, the lawyer I'd briefly encountered at the wedding. Distinguished, silver-haired, presence like carved marble. "Mrs. Hayes," he greeted with a polite nod, "a pleasure to meet you under calmer circumstances. Eli has spoken of you many times these last months." "About me?" I whispered, startled. "Oh, constantly," Marcus chuckled. "He told me he'd met someone with rare sincerity. Yesterday only confirmed it." Eli motioned for us to sit. "Mark, please show her everything." Marcus opened a leather folder and laid several documents in front of me. "First," he began, "your name has been added to all of Mr. Vance's primary bank accounts. You now have full access." I froze. "I can't accept that. We just married." "You're my wife," Eli said firmly. "What's mine is yours." Marcus continued, unfazed. "He has also transferred 3 properties into your name, a coastal villa, a city penthouse, and a mountain lodge. Additionally, an investment fund has been established solely for you with an opening balance of $50 million. My ears rang. $50 million for someone who used to budget down to the last coin. "Eli, this is too much. I don't—" "You do deserve it," he cut in softly. "And there's more." Marcus flipped another page. "Mr. Vance has created trust funds for your grandchildren. Miles and Chloe will each receive $10 million upon turning 25, strictly for education, business, or personal development." My heart cracked open. My grandchildren, my innocent grandchildren.
Despite their father's cruelty, Eli still thought of them. "Why would you—" My voice trembled. "Because they're children," he said. "Because they carry your blood. Because they are loved by you, and that makes them important to me." Marcus went over more details: insurance, diversified portfolios, commercial real estate allocations, numbers so large they sounded fictional. "And," Eli added once Marcus finished, "I want you to remember something, Ellie. You're free, completely free. If you want a simple life, we'll live simply. If you want to explore the world, we'll travel. If you want to do charity work, I'll back every project. This is our life. You decide how to shape it." The rest of the day passed in a haze of introductions to engineers, architects, managers. They didn't speak of Eli like a tyrant or a distant billionaire. They spoke of a man who showed up, who listened, who built not just structures but livelihoods. He wasn't just wealthy, he was respected, he was trusted, he was good. And for the first time, I saw the full weight of the world I had married into.
Eli wasn't just wealthy, he was a leader who genuinely cared about the people who worked under him. As we ate lunch in an elegant restaurant perched on the top floor of his headquarters, he spoke with conviction. "My philosophy is simple," he said, swirling his wine. "If you take care of your people, they take care of your business. Some of my employees have been with me over 2 decades. I've seen them buy homes, raise children, reach milestones that mean more to me than any profit margin." By the time we returned to the hotel in the late afternoon, my mind was spinning. I had seen a world I'd never imagined existed. My entire understanding of life, of him, of myself, felt rearranged. On the balcony, with the city stretching beneath us like a carpet of lights, I finally exhaled. "How are you handling everything?" Eli asked gently. "I'm not sure," I confessed. "A part of me keeps waiting to wake up and find out all of this was a dream, and another part feels guilty." His brow creased. "Guilty? For what?" "For having all this now, for living in luxury while I spent years scrubbing floors in buildings that turned out to be yours. It feels uneven." Eli took a contemplative breath. "I understand. Inequality is brutal. It's why I try to use what I have for something good, the hospital, the scholarship programs, the social housing projects. But I'm not naive. None of it can ever fully balance the world's injustices." There was a familiar weight in my chest, the question I'd been avoiding the entire day. "And Darius?" I finally whispered. Eli's face tightened. "Mark has been monitoring the situation. Your son and Tasha are in serious trouble financially. They've been spending more than they earn for years. They have heavy debts, and after yesterday's spectacle, some of his business associates are cutting ties." "How do you know all that?" I asked, startled. "Because I asked Mark to perform a full review, not to harm them, but to understand what we were dealing with. What we found isn't good. Ellie, your son is teetering on the edge of financial collapse, and some of the people he owes are dangerous." My stomach twisted. "How bad is it?" "Very," Eli answered. "He owes nearly $2 million. Bank loans, failed investments, credit cards, and debts with people who don't operate legally." $2 million? My voice cracked. How could he fall that far? Eli took my hands gently. He poured money into fraudulent companies, bought shares in businesses that didn't exist, borrowed at predatory interest rates to sustain the lifestyle he wanted everyone to admire. And Tasha, she spends money like it grows in the back garden. Luxury brands, jewelry, international trips, all paid with cards that are maxed out. I covered my face, overwhelmed. My God, and I'm sitting here surrounded by wealth while my son is drowning. Ellie, he lifted my chin so our eyes met. Your son humiliated you publicly. He insulted you, mocked you, and tried to destroy the happiest day of your life. And he did it because he thought I was just an ordinary man with nothing to offer. Do you really believe he deserves your sympathy at this moment?
"He's my son," I choked out. Tears burned my eyes. I know he was cruel. I know he hurt me, but I can't switch off being his mother. Eli nodded with quiet understanding. "I would never ask you not to, but hear me. If you rescue him right now, he will never take responsibility. He will repeat every mistake again and again and again, and he will drag you with him. But what if something happens to him, or to Tasha, or worse, my grandchildren?" "The children are safe," Eli reassured. "Mark arranged private security, discreet, reliable. No one will get near Miles or Chloe. You have my word." That eased something in me, but only slightly. "And Darius, are you watching him too?" Eli leaned back, expression darkening. "Yes, and here's the part you need to know. 3 days ago, Darius discovered my real identity. A business partner showed him a Forbes ranking. He saw my name, he saw my face." My heart froze. What did he do? At first, he thought it was a coincidence. Then he looked up photographs. That's when the messages started. He's contacted me 12 times. 12? I whispered. Eli nodded and pulled out his phone. "I haven't responded, but Mark kept every message. Do you want to hear them?" I wasn't sure I did, but I nodded anyway. Eli opened the first message. "Mr. Elias Vance, I regret the misunderstanding at the wedding. I didn't know who you were. Please allow me to clarify." Eli looked up. You notice how he apologizes for the misunderstanding, not for what he said, as if the problem was my status, not his cruelty. He read the next one. "Mr. Vance, this is Darius, Ellie's son. I need to discuss a business opportunity with you. It will benefit both of us." A humorless laugh escaped Eli. "He doesn't even mention you, straight to business." Then he read another. "Sent last night. Elias, I am in a difficult situation. As your wife's son, we should talk. I'm sure we can arrange something that benefits everyone, including my mother." My stomach turned. He's using me as leverage. "Exactly," Eli said grimly. "And here's message 7. It was drunk at the wedding, I wasn't thinking, but I am your wife's only son. My children are her grandchildren. Do you want to fracture that bond? Help me and I'll make her happy." "That is manipulation," I said, feeling anger rising like heat under my skin. Pure manipulation. Finally, he opened the most recent message. This one came in this morning. "Elias, I need $500,000 by the end of this week, or I will be in serious danger. As your wife's mother, you have a moral duty to help her family. I will repay everything with interest." I stared into the horizon for a long time. The pain was sharp, but the truth was sharper. My son didn't call me, didn't apologize to me, didn't show remorse. He wanted a bailout, nothing else. "What are you planning to do?" I finally whispered. "The question," Eli said quietly, "is what you want me to do. You are her mother. You are my wife. Whatever happens next affects both of us." I rose and walked toward the balcony rail. The city stretched beneath us like a carpet of lights. Somewhere down there, my son was panicking, scrambling, desperate for a lifeline. And that deep, instinctive part of me, the part that had carried him in my womb, nursed him, loved him, still wanted to protect him, even now.
I wanted to hand him the money, to erase all his problems in an instant, but another part of me, the part that had been humiliated in front of 400 guests, the part that had been manipulated and used for years, the part that had finally stood up and defended her dignity, knew that would be a terrible mistake. "Don't give him the money," I said at last, my voice firmer than I expected. "Not like this. Not yet." Eli came up behind me and wrapped his arms around me. "Are you certain?" he asked. "No," I admitted, my voice trembling, "but I know it's the right choice. If we bail him out now, without consequences, he'll never learn. He needs to hit rock bottom. He has to understand that he can't treat people this way and expect no fallout." "It's a brave choice," Eli murmured, pressing a kiss to my head. "Painful," I corrected him, "but necessary." The next days were a whirlwind of emotions. Eli and I escaped to our honeymoon on a private Caribbean island, his private island, of course. The beaches were pristine, the water impossibly clear, and privacy was absolute. I tried to relax, to enjoy the first days as a married woman, but my mind kept drifting back to Darius. Mark kept us updated. His creditors were tightening the noose. They'd repossessed the luxury car, frozen bank accounts, and the home where he lived with Tasha and the children was facing foreclosure. "And Tasha?" I asked during a video call. "2 days ago, she left," Mark reported calmly. "She moved back in with her parents and took the kids. She filed for divorce yesterday morning." A pang of pain hit me, despite everything. Even after his betrayal, part of me still worried about my son. Losing his wife, his children, and facing financial collapse all at once, it was brutal. "And how is he holding up?" I asked, trying to steady my voice. "Not well," Mark admitted. "He's drinking heavily, barely eating, and reaching out to friends and former partners. Everyone is turning their back on him now that they know he's broke." I muttered bitterly. How convenient. "There's more," Mark continued. "He's tried to sell his story to the press, called newspapers, television shows, offering exclusives about how his mother married a billionaire and abandoned him in his time of need." "What?" I shrieked, fury overtaking sorrow. "Don't worry," Eli said, taking my hand. "Our PR team handled it. No reputable outlet will touch it, especially after we submitted the wedding videos showing exactly how he humiliated you publicly." "Videos?" I asked, surprised. "Several guests recorded everything. With your permission, we've used them strategically. If Darius tries to paint you as the villain, there's no question who behaved poorly." I sat quietly, absorbing it all. My son had sunk so low that he was trying to profit off my happiness. He was attempting to manipulate the world, to exploit me and my life for his gain. "I think I need to see him," I said slowly. Eli's brow furrowed with concern. "Are you sure that's wise?" "No," I admitted, "but I have to. I need to look him in the eyes, tell him exactly what I feel. I need closure." 3 days later, I stood before a dilapidated apartment in one of the city's poorest districts. I knew the area well. Years ago, when Darius was a boy, I had lived in places just as worn. The air smelled of damp concrete and trash, graffiti covered the walls, and the stairs groaned dangerously as I climbed to the 3rd floor. Eli had wanted to come, but I insisted he stay in the car with the bodyguards, now a permanent shadow of my new life. This was my confrontation, my choice, my moment. I knocked on apartment 32. The door shuffled open slowly. What I saw made my heart ache. Darius looked hollow, gaunt, days of beard growth, dark circles under his eyes. His clothes were wrinkled, stained. Behind him, the apartment was tiny, cluttered, bottles strewn across the floor. This was no longer the arrogant man who had mocked me at the wedding. This was a broken human. "Mom," his voice trembled, breaking. Tears welled in his eyes immediately. "I came," I said, keeping my distance in the doorway. I wasn't stepping inside. I wasn't making this easy. "Please, come in. I know it's awful, but—" "I'm not coming in, Darius," I interrupted, voice sharp. "I'm here to say a few things, then I leave." His face fell. "Mom, please, I need to talk. I need to explain. Everything, it's been a nightmare. Tasha left, the kids are gone, I've lost everything." "And you expected what?" I cut in, my voice harsher than intended, but the years of pain and humiliation poured out. "Did you think, after humiliating me in front of everyone, calling my husband trash, trying to ruin the happiest day of my life, that it would just disappear?" "I was drunk," he muttered weakly, trying to excuse himself.
I didn't know what I was saying. If I had known who Eli really was— "There it is," I interrupted, feeling a surge of rage. "There's the truth. If you had known Eli was a billionaire, you would have treated us differently. If you'd known he had money, you would have respected him. But because you thought he was poor, worthless, you felt entitled to treat us like trash. "No, Mom, it's not like that," he stammered, but we both knew it was exactly like that. "Yes, it is, Darius, and that tells me everything I need to know about who you really are. You didn't love me. You didn't respect my happiness. You only cared about money, about how my marriage affected you." "Please, Mom." His tears fell freely now. "Please, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I made a terrible mistake. I was jealous. I was scared of losing you, and I reacted horribly." "Jealous?" I echoed, disbelief thick in my voice. "You left me alone for 15 years, ignored my calls, treated me like a personal bank, and you were jealous?" "Yes, you're right. I was selfish. I was horrible. The worst son anyone could have," he admitted, voice breaking. "But I'm paying for it now. I've lost everything. The only thing I have left is you, Mom. You're all I have left in the world." "You lost me too," I said, the words cutting deep. "You lost me the day you decided your pride and your greed mattered more than your mother." "No," he whimpered, collapsing to his knees. "Don't say that. Please, I'll do anything to fix it. Anything." "Anything?" I crossed my arms. "Then why were all your messages to Eli about money? Why wasn't a single one a real apology to me? Why did you try to sell our story to the media?" His face went pale. How do you know about that?" "I know everything, Darius. Your debts, the loan sharks, Tasha leaving, your attempts to use my marriage to save yourself. I know it all." He stayed silent, kneeling on that filthy apartment floor. "I'm desperate, Mom. I need $500,000 by Friday, or very bad people are going to hurt me. They've already threatened me twice." "And you came to me," I said calmly, though my chest ached, "not because you love me or value our relationship, but because you need money." "No, it's not just money. I miss you, Mom. I miss having you in my life." "What do you miss, Darius?" I asked sharply. "Miss having someone you could manipulate? A personal bank that never said no? Someone to clean up your messes?" "I miss my mother," he whispered, and for a moment there was genuine feeling in his voice. "I miss how you cared for me as a child, how you were always there, how you made me feel safe and loved." "That boy doesn't exist anymore," I said, tears stinging my eyes. "He became a man who values money over people, a man who married a toxic woman and let her poison everything between us, a man who used me and humiliated me when I finally found happiness." "I can change," he pleaded. "Just one more chance. I'll be different." "How many chances have I given you, Darius? How many times did I lend you money you never returned? How many times did I forgive you? How many times did I swallow my pain when you treated me like I didn't exist? And what did you do with all those chances?" He had no answer, just sobs. "I'm going to tell you something," I continued, voice trembling but firm. "Eli wanted to help you. $500,000 is nothing to him. He could write that check without even noticing it in his bank account. He could save you right now." Darius's eyes widened with hope. He really would. "Yes," I confirmed, but I told him not to, because if I rescue you now, you'll never learn. You'll never value people over money. You'll stay the same selfish, materialistic man who treated me like garbage." "But Mom, they'll hurt me. These men, they're dangerous." "I know," I said, my heart breaking, "because despite everything, you're still my son. I don't want anything to happen to you, but I cannot be your eternal savior. I cannot keep fixing your mistakes while you never face consequences." "Then what am I supposed to do?" he shouted, despair in his voice. "Just wait for them to kill me?" "No," I replied. "You're going to do what any responsible adult should.
You're going to the police. You're going to report the loan sharks. You're going to get protection, and you're going to rebuild your life from scratch, the right way. The police can't touch them, he said bitterly. They're too powerful, too connected. Then I'll give you something better than money. I pulled a card from my purse. Mark King, Eli's lawyer, one of the best in the country. Call him. He'll handle your legal problems, protect you from creditors, and help you file bankruptcy properly. Darius took it with trembling hands. And after that, will you come back into my life? That depends on you, I replied. Whether you truly change, whether you learn from this, whether you become the man I raised you to be. And my children, can I at least see them? Can they see their grandmother? That hit me hard. Miles and Chloe, I had missed them since the wedding. I'll talk to Tasha, I promised, but she doesn't owe me anything. If she decides you can't see them yet, I'll respect that. She hates you, Darius said bitterly. All this is your fault. If you hadn't married that old man, none of this would have happened. Of course she says that, I replied calmly. Taking responsibility is hard when your lifestyle caused the problems. I turned to leave. Mom, wait, he called out. Just tell me one thing. Will you ever forgive me? I paused in the hallway, looking over my shoulder. I don't know, Darius. Honestly, I don't know. But I want to be able to. I want to believe my son is still in there beneath the pride and greed. So prove it to me. Prove you're worth it. 6 months later, I sat on the terrace of our new villa overlooking the ocean. Eli had designed it just for me. The sea breeze brushed my face as I sipped coffee, watching waves lap at our private beach. A life I never imagined, yet here I was. My phone rang. It was Vivian. Ellie, turn on the news. Channel 7, quick. My heart raced.
I turned on the television, and what I saw took my breath away. It was Darius, but not the broken, desperate man I had visited 6 months ago. He stood tall, wearing a simple yet dignified suit, speaking to a group of young people at a community center. 1 year ago, this same man had been drowning in shame and failure. Now he was sharing his story openly, not for pity, but so others could learn from his mistakes. I lost everything, he said into the camera, his voice steady. My house, my marriage, my money. But worst of all, I almost lost my dignity, and I almost lost my mother. Today, I'm here to tell these young people my story, not to make them pity me, but to help them avoid the mistakes I made. The reporter asked him about his journey, and Darius spoke candidly about his debts, his reckless spending, and how he had placed material things above family. My mother, he said, his voice faltering slightly, gave me the hardest lesson of my life. She let me fall. At first, I hated her for it, but now I understand. It was the greatest act of love she could have given me. Eli appeared behind me and placed a hand on my shoulder. Are you okay, sweetheart? I don't know, I whispered, unable to look away from the screen. The segment continued, showing Darius filing for bankruptcy with Mark's guidance, his legal battles handled efficiently and discreetly. They showed his modest but tidy apartment and the work he had taken at a construction company, starting from the bottom. And then clips of him speaking at schools and community centers about financial literacy, responsibility, and valuing relationships over money. The reporter asked him about our relationship. Darius looked down. We're rebuilding slowly. She gave me her number 3 months ago, and we talk once a week. It's difficult. There's a lot of pain to heal. But for the first time in years, I feel like we're being honest with each other. It was true. After that call to Mark, things had gradually begun to change. Mark had skillfully navigated the legal issues, protected Darius from dangerous creditors, and guided him through bankruptcy. It had been humiliating but necessary.
2 months later, Darius sent me a 10-page handwritten letter, not a text, not an email, a real letter. He poured out his remorse, his arrogance, his materialism, how he had allowed Tasha to poison our relationship. But most importantly, he apologized. No requests, no excuses, just heartfelt regret. I cried for hours, and Eli held me while I processed the complex mix of relief, sorrow, and pride. A week later, I gave him my number. Our first conversations were awkward, full of silences, but we persisted. Every week, without fail, we talked for 30 minutes. "And his children?" the reporter asked on TV. "That's a process," Darius replied. "Tasha and I are in co-parenting therapy. I suggested it because my children deserve functional parents, even if we are no longer together." "And a message for those going through similar struggles?" Darius looked into the camera. "Pride can destroy you. Materialism will consume you. And the people who truly love you, the ones willing to let you fall so you can learn to fly, those are the people to value above everything." He paused, voice trembling. "To my mother, if you're watching, every day I'm working to be the son you deserved. I don't expect forgiveness tomorrow, or ever, but I want you to know I understand now. I love you. I always have, even when I was too foolish to show it." Tears streamed down my face uncontrollably. Eli hugged me tightly. A month later, I received another surprise. Mark called. Darius had paid back the $5,000 Eli had lent him. He had worked overtime for 4 months to gather it. That night, I sent him a message for the first time. 3 words: "I'm proud of you." His reply came 20 minutes later. That means more to me than any money in the world. 2 weeks later, we met at a neutral coffee shop. Awkward at first, but slowly we began to talk. "Would you like to see the children again?" I asked cautiously. Darius's eyes lit up. "You would really do that?" "They are my grandchildren," I said simply. "I never stopped loving them." The reunion with Miles and Chloe was one of the most emotional moments of my life. Eli was wonderful with them, teaching them to swim, telling stories, showing them that wealth doesn't make anyone superior. One day, watching the children play on the beach, Darius said softly, "Thank you for not giving up on me, Mom." Parents never give up," I replied, "but sometimes we have to let them fall so they can learn to fly." Eli and I founded the Letitia Foundation in honor of his late wife to help elderly women abandoned by their families. It was my idea, born from my own experiences. Exactly 1 year after our wedding, Eli and I renewed our vows. This time it was intimate, with only those who truly mattered. Darius attended, with Miles and Chloe. Eli took my hands and said, "A year ago, I promised you eternal love without you knowing who I really was. Today, I promise it again, now that you know everything." Afterward, Darius approached Eli. "Mr. Vance, I never properly apologized. You are a good man, and my mother is lucky to have found you." Eli extended his hand. "The past is the past. What matters is the man you are today." That night, lying in Eli's arms, I reflected on the year. A year ago, I had been humiliated on the most important day of my life. Now I had love, security, purpose, dignity, and a peace I had never known. "What are you thinking?" Eli asked. "That my life has changed forever," I replied, "and I wouldn't change a thing. Everything led me here. It taught me who I really am, gave me the strength to defend myself, and brought me to you." Eli kissed my forehead. "You are the strongest woman I know, Ellie." "No," I corrected gently. "I'm a woman who learned to be strong because she had no other choice. That's what makes all the difference." I smiled at the camera, addressing my viewers. "I'm so glad I could share my story. If you liked it, show it by liking the video and subscribing. Comment your city and local time. I'm curious where everyone is watching from. If you want to support me, even a small donation helps. I share new life stories every day. 2 of my most popular stories will pop up now. Choose which one to watch next.